What's up? What's up? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Format Podcast. So, what are we going to talk about? I think you already know. We're going to talk about game one of the NBA Finals, which is now in the books. Boston Celtics won game one, 120 to 108. Kind of a shocker. I mean, is it really a shocker? Don't really know. The Celtics have been road warriors all this playoff season. They've actually been better on the road than they've been at home. The Warriors, however, had not lost at home yet this playoff season, and now that's done. That streak is over. I think they were 9-0. Now they're 9-1. This was an interesting game, right? For a couple reasons. Now, again, last episode we talked about Steph and what he's got to do in terms of this series and where some people feel it may vault him in terms of his all-time placement. And so that's something I'm going to touch base on with, along with some other thoughts I have in terms of said all-time placement. So where do I start? So the Warriors obviously got out to a pretty solid start. Steph was smoking hot, whatever word you want to use. He was en fuego, on fire, burning it up. 6 threes in the first quarter, 21 points. The 6 threes tied a single half NBA Finals record in terms of most threes made in a half in a finals game. Obviously, we know who held that record before, Michael Jordan, with the 6 threes back in 92 in the infamous Shrug game against the Portland Trailblazers. Now, we also know that Michael Jordan wasn't nearly the shooter from long range that Steph Curry is, but he had the record. So anyway, Steph comes out, he's firing. I think he was 6 of 7 from 3 in that first quarter, along with, as I mentioned, the 21 points. But what's interesting, he had 21 points in the fourth quarter, finished with 34 for the game. And after that fourth quarter, I think he went 5 for 16 or 5 for 17 the rest of the way. So this is kind of where I wanted to go with this, right? So we always talk about, not just me, the sports media in general, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter the game has ever seen. I believe that's true. With that said, I always talk about what with basketball, and now you're starting with the all-time talk, errors, right? Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying this series is over for Golden State. They can't come back and win. Steph Curry can't make his mark. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm about to explain it to you, right? So with Steph Curry going off early like that, if you watch the game, you saw the Celtics exercising a lot of drop coverage on defense, which is basically when Steph Curry got into the pick and roll situation, when he was the ball handler in the pick and roll, the defender, instead of coming out to show on the pick, was actually dropping back off in the coverage. When you have an all-time elite shooter like Steph Curry, you can't do that. And he was just eating that for lunch, right? I don't know why they were playing drop coverage with that dude, but he was literally able to just walk into threes, walk around the pick, and get open looks. And, you saw what happened. He made 6 threes in the first quarter alone. Now, when he came back into the game and the Celtics tightened up their defense, they started trapping him in the backcourt, forcing the ball out of his hands. They started playing more aggressive, switching everything, getting those long, athletic wing defenders in his face and making his shots much tougher, much more contested. All of a sudden, you see a total difference. Now, that's not to say that Steph Curry can't make tough and contested shots. We've seen him make a career out of doing that. But when you suddenly have a bunch of elite defenders, number one, they're taking the ball from you. Number two, they're making it more difficult on you from the time you come across half court. Number three, when you do get a shot, it's heavily contested. Now you're starting to see the difference that elite defense makes, right? So where am I going with this? We always talk about Steph Curry's place all time as an elite marksman and a sniper at the highest order, and no one's taking away from that. But I keep saying it. Dudes that put up incredible numbers in this era, it's a lot easier to do so in an era which has manipulated out defense. I keep saying it, right? And the Boston Celtics of this season and this particular playoff run, especially if they should end up winning the championship, are definitive of that. They are demonstrating how today's great offensive players can be held in check by excellent defense. And this is not even the type of defense, again, that we saw in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s. This is not that type of defense, right? This is not nearly as physical. They're just getting a taste, and they're able to really control a lot of these great offensive players that are used to being able to move, shoot, and score with impunity, right? But now you're making that much more difficult on them, and you're seeing what an adjustment it is for those types of players. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying Steph Curry, I'm not going to say he got shut down, but he had a whole lot of problems in being as productive as he was in that first quarter once the Celtics got away from the drop coverage and started trapping him more, switching everything on the pick and roll, and really getting long contested shots in front of him instead of just open looks. All of a sudden, you see Steph Curry looking a lot more human. Again, it's only game one. Adjustments will be made. Steve Kerr is great at making adjustments. We'll find out what he does, and we'll find out what Steph is going to do going forward. But I think it's really, really important to note, not just with Steph Curry, but with great offensive players of today's generation, period, what's happening when they're facing really elite team defense, right? And that's elite for this era, not necessarily elite all time, no matter what the statistics may say. So you got to wonder, what would Steph Curry do back in the day, right? I keep saying it. Can you imagine if Steph Curry had to go up against Gary Payton or Mookie Blaylock, Muggsy Bogues, these kind of guys that make it hard? Derek Harper, right? I was thinking the Knicks, but Derek Harper, guys that made it difficult just for you to get across half court, right? And like I mentioned last episode, when you're running off the screens on the off-ball actions, right? You're getting bumped trying to run the baseline and get around all these picks and whatnot. Are your legs still going to be there the same way in the fourth quarter? Probably not, which is very specifically why the NBA, when they changed the rules on this stuff, made an emphasis on providing freedom of motion for the offensive player. Why? So more scoring can happen, because most fans don't like defense. Fans like scoring. They like big scoring outbursts. And that's why I always say, back in the day, if you got 30 or you got 40 or you got 50 or even 60, guys knew that you earned that. So those 30, 40, 50 point, 60 point games back then that happened meant a lot more than the ones that happen now, because it wasn't just someone getting hot and throwing up a barrage of threes, or someone, getting a bunch of, easy looks, or getting into the lane with no rim protection time and time again, right? This is one of the things I point to. Steph Curry, we know, is an all-time great player at finishing at the rim, right? He's got a layup package. He can hit the floaters. He can hit the mid-range, and all that is great. Not taking any of that away from him. But would he be nearly as efficient in the paint? This goes for Kyrie Irving too, and a lot of these other guys. Would they be nearly as efficient in the paint if you had 8 to 10 Rudy Goberts in the lane in any given season, right? I always point to it. Michael Jordan, I want to say the 88 season, averaged 37 points per game, right? He only made 12 three-pointers that whole year. And during that time, 10 of the top 12 all-time shot blockers were playing, right? Can you imagine if you're Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, these guys, right? We know they have the layup package. We know they're great finishers at the rim, blah, 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 like I just said. But now, doesn't all that change when you go to the rim and you have a Hakeem Olajuwon in there, or a Mark Eaton, or an Alonzo Mourning, or a Shaquille O'Neal, or let's say a Tim Duncan, a David Robinson, a Patrick Ewing, you got Mount Mutombo, all these great guys, right? That wasn't in 88 because Mutombo, Shaq, Zoe, those guys weren't in the league yet. But you get the general point, right? There were so many more elite shot blockers in the league at that time, right? So do you really think Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving are doing the stuff that you see them doing now? That's not to take anything away from them as players. But again, we are in a situation, in a position where it's much easier to score both at the rim and from long range. Now, all that said, it's going to be real interesting to see what type of adjustments Steve Kerr makes. Really looking forward to seeing that. Really looking forward to how Steph Curry responds with a game where he started out hot, but then, the Celtics got their defense in gear and really gave him a tough time the rest of the way. Going to love to see what happens there. Klay Thompson was a relative no-show for the game last night. He didn't get busy. We know that Klay Thompson can go nuclear at any given time. So Celtics definitely can't ever relax on that. We need to make sure, not we need to make sure, but if you're the Celtics, you need to make sure that, you don't lose sight of Klay, because he sees one go down and then all of a sudden it's over. He starts banging them from everywhere, right? Draymond Green, we'll see what he can do. Obviously, he's not a scorer, but just better overall in facilitating the offense and defending. I can't wait, right? I think one of the best things and one of the most exciting things is the game within the game, right? Watching these coaches make adjustments and changes because this is all the marbles, right? There's no more after this. This is it, right? You make the right adjustments and push the right buttons, and you may end up with a championship. So you love to see it. This is what the finals are all about. This is awesome. On the flip side, the Boston Celtics side, again, Udoka will tell you we hang our hat on defense, right? So the defense really clamped down, made things difficult on Steph. You saw things start to change, but the Celtics have to do better offensively. They cannot count on making another 21 threes. Al Horford, I think, hit 6. That was like a playoff career high. He had 26 points last night. Um, you saw the Celtics really go bonkers and the game on a 17-0 run. And I think they hit 9 threes in the fourth quarter, which is also an NBA single playoff quarter record for a team, 9 threes. So we're seeing stuff that we don't usually see. I have been complaining all playoff season about the Celtics and how they play offensively in terms of pretty much either ISO with Tatum or Jaylen Brown or a three. You don't see a whole lot of offense being run in terms of actions and off ball movement. Now, I get it. You dance with who brung you. You play how you've been playing all year and how you've had success. But the Warriors are an outstanding defensive team as well. And they may, put in something in the interim between now and Sunday that's going to take away what the Celtics have done. And again, the Boston can't count on making 21 threes again. So, that's one of the things we got to look at. Jason Tatum, 3 of 17 for the floor. I'm pretty sure we're not going to see another one like that. But that's a tough way to start your NBA Finals career. Although he really did a great job of contributing in other ways with 13 assists last night. Now, a big part of those 13 assists was, guys who aren't usually bombing away from three, making a lot of huge shots, but still 13 assists is actually the record for most assists in an NBA Finals debut. More than John Stockton, more than Isaiah Thomas, more than Magic Johnson. So that's pretty elite company if you're Jason Tatum. What I love there is that even though he wasn't making shots, he found a way to contribute. If you go back to game 7 of the 2010 finals, which coincidentally also had the Celtics, right? So this is the Celtics and the Lakers with the late, great Kobe Bryant. And Kobe couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I want to say he's like 6 of 19 or 6 of 20 in that game. But what did he do? He found a way to will his team to victory by grabbing 15 rebounds, which I think was probably a career high or a playoff career high. So he grabs the 15 boards, right? That's 15 possessions he created on his own. So you got to look at it. Even if your shot's not falling, the great ones always find some way to contribute to the win. And that's what Tatum did last night with his 13 assists. So definitely love that. I'm really curious to see how he's going to be able to do in terms of, can he pick up the scoring? Can he make the shots? You also got to love, if you're a Celtics or a Celtics fan, when Tatum's not going, that's when Jaylen Brown seems to say, okay, I got you, bro, and pick it up. He had a very good night last night. He was hitting from the field. He was going to the rim. So you love to see it. I want to know if the Celtics are going to continue with the defensive scheme they're using on Steph in terms of switching everything so he doesn't get those open looks off the pick and roll, and if they're going to continue to trap him and try to get the ball out of his hands early in the possession. That's going to be very interesting. But at the same time, it's also very dangerous trapping a guy like that all the time who can see to make the pass, because you've got so many other shooters on that roster. Now, if you're playing with Looney and Draymond in the same lineup, or Wiggins and Draymond, well, then I can totally see where, if you're the Celtics, you're willing to make that trap, because you only have to pretty much worry about Clay and maybe Poole, depends on what your lineup is, right? But those are two guys who are much less threats in terms of shooting from the perimeter. So that's definitely what you do. You wait and see, and it's all dependent on the lineups. So that's all I got for you on game 1. Definitely going to be back to talk after game 2 and see where we are in the series with that. Hopefully, we'll get a Warriors win. Not that I'm rooting for the Warriors, but hopefully we get a Warriors win and they go back to Boston 1-1, and we can get a great 7-game series. That's all you really want in the championship rounds, is You want the best possible, most competitive outcome you can possibly have. So Celtics up 1-0, and next game up Sunday night. So yeah, that's it for that. So before we get up out of here, you know what you got to do. Do me a favor. If you enjoyed the content, please go ahead, click that like button. Click the subscribe button in the lower right corner of your screen if you haven't already. Click that notification bell so you can be notified when new episodes come out. Definitely working hard to give you good quality content, and so we can let you know when you're getting those new episodes. All right. Also, if you want the audio only version, you can get those pretty much wherever you get audio podcasts. The format podcast, just type that in, should come right up. If your audio platform allows it, please go ahead and give us that 5-star review. Helps us rise in the algorithm, helps more people find us. Also, in addition to that 5-star review, if you can, please leave a comment. All those things help too, whether it's on your audio platform or right here in YouTube. All right. Anything else? I guess that's about it. So listen, appreciate it. And if you really enjoyed the show, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure you share it with other sports fans. Helps us get in more ears, get in front of more eyes. All right. Goal is always to keep growing, keep working, keep growing. All right. So thanks so much. Enjoy it until next time. And I'm out. Peace.